Andrew, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, Lilly is in a fortunate position. You've got a strong pipeline, but I understand that you guys are making a lot of changes nonetheless, particularly around when it comes to refocusing on the customer. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, you're right. We're fortunate to have a strong pipeline of medicines that we're currently trying to launch and bring to the marketplace. But along that way, we've also been going through a bit of a transformation in how we approach our customers, trying to move from more of a push model, which is really more telling customers about our drugs, to more of a pull model. So really helping to meet their needs and a much more listening approach to get feedback and build solutions that they really want for themselves. And we've introduced a concept called the service value chain. It's also known as the service profit chain if you Google it. And it's something that's been used by many industries actually for a long time, but a model that really hasn't been embraced, I would say, certainly by us or by the industry in general. And the basic philosophy is that the leaders create an environment that's more orientated towards the customer. That then engages your employees, so employees feel more engaged about the purpose, your sense of purpose. Engaged employees then create more positive customer experiences in general, and those experiences translate into business results. And we have a process in place that measures each of those elements, not just the output, the sales output or the profitability, but really focusing on the drivers that can drive improved performance towards the customer. And we've introduced something called the Net Promoter Score. It's our voice of the customer measure. And we measure our progress on that in each of our different therapeutic areas. And it's a way to really get our organization focused on the things that do drive customer loyalty.
It sounds like you found a positive way forward, but Andrew, if there is anything that you could change about the industry going forward, any one thing, and I realize it's a very open question, what would that be?
I think there's an opportunity for the industry in general to be more collaborative and more open. I think we have a unique position, I think, with the science that we have to really tackle the areas of unmet medical need that are out there. And that's one of the things we're trying to do as a company, particularly in Alzheimer's research, where we're forming a lot more collaborations, both with academic groups in terms of looking at early stage disease, but also to find new solutions. We formed a venture capital fund around Alzheimer's in the UK, along with the UK government and several companies. So we're all sort of sharing our knowledge to try and tackle something that's been a challenge for everybody, to try and find something that can actually modify or slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease. And I think more of that is required, particularly in those disease states where there may not be a financial return within the industry's model. So how can we do more there as a collaborative approach across the industry and with other stakeholders to tackle some of those diseases? But personally, I'm very proud about what the industry does. I remember sort of 10 years ago, we probably got criticized of bringing to market more Me Too products. And now you're seeing a real wave of innovation arriving from the industry that can make a massive difference to the health of patients.
So you say you started 3 years ago. What was the original motivation behind that? And after 3 years, are you actually seeing a result? And are you pleased with the trajectory that you're going on?
Yeah, I think the initial momentum was just a recognition that the current model we didn't believe was sustainable. I call this push model. And I think from all the research we were doing with physicians and patients, they were looking for more from us. And that led to a lot of, I would call, customer-centric research about what drives customers to be loyal to a company. And some of these elements I talked about came out of that research. And then you say, okay, how do you want to then change the organization? And most organizations will change with how they're being rewarded. And so as management leaders in the organization, we came up with this Net Promoter Score as the ultimate measure of performance versus the traditional sales measure that we were held accountable for and rewarded on in the past. So that's been a big transition. I think in terms of how do we know we're progressing, it's the Net Promoter Score, and we measure that on an annual basis across each of our therapeutic areas, and we can measure positive progress because it's a number. And people like numbers, and you can see if it's going up in the right direction or staying the same or going down. And what's actually pleasing to see is there is a strong correlation between the things that we do, that our customers say that they want from us, and you see the score increase. And in areas where we've actually disinvested, you actually see the net promoter score go down. So customers actually feel when the company's doing something different, and it comes through in those scores. So are they 100% accurate and reliable? No, but they're directionally correct. And that's really what we're using to guide us in our performance.
I'm all for simple measurements, and the Net Promoter Score sounds like a very useful way of doing that. But you've got a system which, a customer who's defined as the patient, a process called the service value model, and you're using this single metric above all others. Is there a danger that you're going to effectively try and become healthcare organizations where you're almost replacing and not necessarily collaborating with the healthcare professionals that exist already? Obviously,
in our industry, we have to work through the physician to get to the patient in many of our environments. So the physician is still core, for our commercial model. So a lot of what we do is enabled through the physician to help the patient. So that collaborative approach is still critically important. In fact, in our commercial processes, we have something called the patient journey, and we map out the patient's journey through a disease state. And obviously through that journey, there are many stakeholders that get involved in a patient actually ultimately getting treated in the right place. And so within that, we look for points of tension, and it could be at the point of diagnosis with the physician. It could be, filling their prescription, and does it get filled appropriately? It could be the ease at which they take the medicine. It could be complicated, so it could be a supply chain type issue. So that process, but focused on through the eyes of the patient, and then us bringing solutions in collaboration with those key stakeholders, is how our model works. So it's not just simply about the patient, but at the ultimate goal is to help that patient get either healthier, live a longer life, or a more healthy life along the way. So that's the ultimate goal. But it's an ecosystem. It's not, like you say, it's not simple. It's a complex system, but you have to have some framework for navigating your way through it.
You're at an eyeforpharma conference today, and you've been talking about some of these issues to the audience. But one of the other issues is effectively exactly what we're still talking about, but on a macro level. I can see why your model is extremely effective on a local model, but how are you addressing the issue of improving trust and improving the service value towards the healthcare system and the patients at large?
Well, I'd say there's a couple of things. I think in our company, I think it's now 2 or 3 years ago, we put a position in place called the Chief Customer Officer. And I think I said earlier, it's really about the whole value chain. So it's not just about the commercial operation, it's the whole company and the ethos around the company. And the real purpose of putting that position in place, it's not really about the name of the position, was to ensure that all our employees were educated about the things that drive our customers, and having a feedback loop from all our customer touch points, and having a mentality of improving that every day. So little improvements over time add up to big improvements. So, I mean, one of the foundations are our customer service principles, and the key foundation stone of that is being trusted. So how do you build trust with customers in each interaction? It is the pure foundation, and it's right across the organization. The second one is really making our customers feel cared for. So do we really care about them? And the third thing is making sure we're easy to work with as a company. And if we do those 3 behaviors, if you like, exceptionally well every day at all the touch points across the company, we'll move it forward. But it's right across the value chain. It's when patients first interact with us if they're getting involved in a clinical trial, and how do we interact with them. And we've got initiatives running to try and help make that process a lot easier, simpler, and help patients understand the value of participating in trials, all the way through to the drug delivery. How's the most convenient way to get my medicine, and how do we provide services around that can help the patient with their disease through education or information. So it's more of it's got to encompass the whole organization to make a difference, because all the way along that chain you could mess up, and create a bad experience. And as you know from common life, people tend to talk about bad experiences and not talk about good experiences. So we try and say of the 40,000+ people working at Lilly, if everyone's approaching the customer with the same philosophy, that will add up to a better experience for the company and drive loyalty towards Lilly. And we have a long-term view. This is we've been around for 140 years as a company, and we've been fortunate to remain independent, primarily because we brought new innovative medicines to market. And we want to make sure that we're in this for the long term and taking a long-term view in terms of building trust with our customers.